All right, FBI Director Kash Patel was already on thin ice with Donald Trump after making headlines for months because he flew his girlfriend around in government jets and used a SWAT team as his personal security team in order to impress the very same girlfriend. So Donald Trump was already thinking about replacing Kash Patel as FBI Director, according to multiple reports. Of course, the White House denied those reports, but Kash Patel has face-planted repeatedly every single time a tentpole event happens. As the FBI director, there are going to be moments, oftentimes tragedies, unfortunately, but moments where you have to be under a microscope, you have to perform, get your shit together, and make sure you have no errors. Kash Patel, in every single one of these moments, has face-planted and messed up. Last night was absolutely no different. Two National Guard members were tragically shot in Washington, D.C., and Kash Patel found himself embarrassingly out of the loop, as this article reads. Double check to make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed. We're going to be covering this every single day. Happy holidays. And this article is titled, Keystone Kash Vows to Track Down National Guard Shooter Already in Hospital. Kash Patel walked in front of the cameras, looked stunned, looked way in over his head, just as he did after Charlie Kirk was shot, just as he did every time he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, just as he did throughout every single tragedy that the FBI has touched throughout his tenure. He sits there and looks way in over his head. Last night, he was making statements that didn't make sense with the official reporting. He was conflicting the timeline of his own department, his own FBI, he was conflicting the timeline of. I mean, check this out.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kash Patel, FBI Director. We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice.
Okay, wait a minute though. Kash Patel says we are going to find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act, which is good in theory, but at the time, it says WTF is going on. After announcing they had a suspect in custody, a disheveled Kash Patel stands in front of the FBI and vows to capture the suspect. Did they not capture the suspect, or does Patel just not know? Well, at the time, the suspect was captured and was already in the hospital. Kash Patel didn't even know what was going on during this timeline. Adam Cochran says, another major shooting event, another time for Kash Patel to show he is not fit to run this office. Wes Smith says, Keystone Kash blows it again. The perpetrator that he's going to use all available resources to track down is already in the hospital. Absolute idiots. And Kash Patel stood there, again, wide-eyed, just way in over his head. FBI Director Kash Patel vowed to launch a manhunt for the shooter who wounded two National Guard members near the White House, which, by the way, is an absolute tragedy. It's a terrible thing that happened, and we're going to talk about that in just 1 second. But Kash Patel, there's a reason why we like to have experience in people that we appoint. You know, I do like younger people. It's okay to have younger leaders, but those younger leaders have to have some sort of experience. Obama didn't have the most experience in the world, but he was a senator. He had done a lot of organizing. He had run multiple campaigns. He was in politics for a while. I mean, you need to have some sort of experience in politics, in any sort of arena. Kash Patel doesn't have that experience, doesn't have the experience as an executive or as somebody who leads a department, so he's always way in over his head. Tommy Viter points out, so glad that Kash Patel became FBI director so that he can use our taxpayer dollars to get laid and go on lavish Gulf vacations on a government jet. Just remember, in response to earlier reporting about his use of a government plane, an FBI spokesman told the Wall Street Journal that Mr. Patel had taken about a dozen personal trips since becoming director. By comparison, during a 4-year period, Mr. Mockler, who is known for his grinding work ethic, took 10 flights out of nearly 300 that required reimbursement. So already, Kash Patel has blown that up. In late August, Mr. Patel flew on a government jet from the Washington area to an airport in Scotland. The destination was an exclusive golf resort, the Carnegie Club, for a getaway with friends, including former Navy SEALs, along with people that he had met as a public defender and in travels overseas. This is the FBI director. Now, there is a huge debate online as this shooting happened, which of course is a tragedy. Republicans immediately tried to politicize it and say that Democrats were responsible for this. The first narrative A, was that Alyssa Slotkin and Mark Kelly were responsible because they said that these National Guard members, or they said that military members, should disobey illegal orders. That was blown out of the water, so now they're saying that this guy was let in under the Biden administration, which he did come in 2021, but as they point out on CNN,
What we know is that he comes here from Afghanistan in the summer of 2021. He applies for asylum in December of 2024. Now he goes through another vetting process involving that, and he's approved for asylum in April of this year under the Trump administration.
Under the Trump administration, he is approved for asylum. That doesn't stop Donald Trump from coming out and trying to control the narrative on his own by saying that Afghanistan is a hellhole and trying to make this into a race, immigration, ethnicity thing.
I can report tonight that based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden. A disastrous president.
A slippery lie. His status was extended in April of 2024. Aaron Rupar points out, Trump's speech about the shooting in D.C. veered into him attacking the Somali community in Minnesota, which of course had nothing to do with the shooting. Gives away the bigoted game. He somehow weaves from Afghanistan being a hellhole to then the Somali community in Minnesota.
This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation. The last administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival.
So he immediately weaves it into his broader immigration lens, which is that immigration is bad unless it's people with temporary protected status coming from South Africa who are white. Adam Cochran points out, this is perhaps the most tragic moment in all of this. No matter why this shooting happened, which of course it's tragic, we don't know the exact motive yet, but no matter why this shooting happened, these National Guard members were unnecessarily in DC. 2 people shot dead serving their country in a line of duty that their governors shouldn't have placed them in the first place. Right when this happened, going back to Kash Patel, Kash Patel's singer country star girlfriend immediately tried to pin it on Democrats. Remember, this was narrative A that I was talking about earlier. She immediately said, like 10 minutes after this happened, quote, while everyone on X is fighting, the left is still attacking people who wear the uniform and support this country simply for doing so. They are far more important things in the world and far bigger enemies who actually hate us and do in fact want to kill us. Pray. And they're immediately trying to spin this into this crazy political story that it is not, when it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy, and these National Guard members shouldn't have been there. Marjorie Taylor Greene made this statement that was supposed to be sweet, but it was kind of revealing. She was like, hey, the National Guard members were so nice. I saw them picking up trash every day in D.C., which I think is great. That is good. It's a very noble thing to do, but the National Guard members were mobilized away from their homes just to pick up trash. That's the type of deterrence that Donald Trump wanted in D.C., and now multiple of them are dead, which is despicable. Donald Trump, of course, never misses an opportunity to turn it into a race immigration thing, and we're just going to have to continue to push back every single day with the truth, that this is a tragedy, that Kash Patel is unfit to lead a hot dog stand, and that democracy, liberalism, is the way to go. Make sure you drop a like. Double check to make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.